Hi and welcome to my guide on handling a pole and using a catapult. We'll start with assembling the pole. There are basically two ways you can do this. You'll notice that I've got the sections of pole readily to hand. Start with section number 4, add 5, then add number 6, and in this case I'm using the top kit plus 4, so I'm now adding number 7. Pushing the pole out over the water as I'm doing so, resting it on my knee, and then shipping back onto the pole roller, and that's the pole assembled. The other way of doing this is to do it in the opposite direction. So we start with section number 7, then take section number 6 and add that, but now instead of pushing out over the water we'll actually push the pole back on its roller. We'll now add section number 5, and finally section 4. So that's our pole assembled. Let's see how we actually handle now the length of pole that we're going to be fishing with. And here I'm actually fishing with the pole with the top kit plus 3 sections. That was my chosen distance for the day. And you'll see we add the number 4 to the top kit, and as I've explained before, we always move the pole around and not the top kit, so we actually add the pole to the top kit, not the other way round, if you get my understanding. And once we've got the pole at its full length, you'll notice that I've got the butt tucked underneath the elbow, nice upright upper arm, and a nice relaxed but upright sitting position with the pole resting across the knee, or in this case across both knees or thighs. But you'll notice I'm not gripping the pole very hard. Indeed, the left hand is almost off the pole. Here it comes off the pole totally, as I'm now swinging round to show you how I would put the pole across my thighs to fish in the margins. You'll also notice that I'm not using the pole here at its full length, and newcomers to pole fishing might think that you always have to fish with the pole at its full length with your elbow on the end of the section. That's not the case. You can actually fish with as much of that section behind you as you wish in order to fish the exact distance that you're looking for. Now with the pole back in front of us again, you can see I can take my hands off the pole. I've got it so well wedged under the elbow. I can take my hands off, nice and relaxed, and with it fairly well balanced in the hand, I can add the remaining 2 sections of this pole and push it out to its full length. Again, the pole sits nicely under the elbow, across the knee, and again I can take the left hand off. I can even take both hands off. I've got it so well set, and you can see that just by lifting the heel I can actually strike whilst I don't have my hands on the pole. But basically, while you're fishing, just adopt whichever position is comfortable. And during a day's fishing I can actually sit in a number of different positions, feet and legs in different places, and that will be dependent on where I'm fishing, what the weather conditions are like. Now here we are using a catapult. I can still remember the first time I saw someone feed with a catapult and 14 metres of pole. Before that I thought it must have been an impossibility, but it's one of those things that once you've seen it done you realise it's possible and that you can do it. You can see here I'm holding the catapult and the cup in the right hand, fill it with the left hand, and you push the left hand forward. Of course I'm right-handed. If you're left-handed you do it the other way round. But again, everything held in the right hand, the pole's nice and steady, and you just push the left hand forward, release with the right hand, and that's your catapult. Talking of feeding, just very quickly, feeding with a pot on the end of the pole. You'll notice there that I've dipped the pot underwater until it's filled with water, turned it over, and the pellets come out nice and easily. No need to keep smacking the end of the pole in order to break them out. Now putting the rig in the water, you'll see here that I've laid the rig out to the right hand side, nice and straight, so nothing is in a tangle. I now encourage the back shot to sink, and I'm just holding the float in the position I want it to be. It's now settled, and with a slight breeze coming from the right, I put the pole tip to the right hand side so that I can stop the pole float from being pushed from right to left. I can also swing the rig out straight in front of me. Now that can be very useful if you're fishing on a near slope that's rising towards you and you want the bait just lifting or just settling on that slope. And again, I can also lay the rig out to the left hand side. Exactly the same, lay it out in a straight line, pull it into position, encourage the pole float to go upright, get our back shot sunk, and we're fishing. And here I'm showing you how you can also just lower the rig in vertically. So literally with the bait underneath the float, and just lower the whole lot down slowly, so that instead of swinging like a pendulum, it's now just going vertically into the water. And you see there an immediate bite because of the slow fall of the bait. And of course what we can do is a combination of the two. We can actually lay the rig out, here I'm doing it to the left, but holding the pole float out of the water, letting the rig settle vertically below the pole float, and then just lowering everything into place so that we've now got the float in precisely the position we want, the pole tip on the windward side. Now this comes towards the end of this video, and I've got to include a couple of shots that show the end result of all of this. We've lowered the rig in, and again I'm holding the pole to the left hand side to start with just to move it into position, but the wind on this day was coming again from the right. Hold the pole tip to the left, to the right hand side, holding the float in place over where we've previously fed, and bingo. Although I've edited this video, it took about 25 seconds from the float settling to getting that bite, and you'll notice that to start with I've held the pole and the fish out to the left hand side. There was a bed of lilies to my right which I didn't want any large fish getting towards, so I hold the pole out to the left, I assess the size of the fish, and then start to ship the pole back once I know I've got the fish under control. And again here I've got the pole to the left hand side. There's no editing of this video at all. That float has just settled, the bait has just registered on the tip of the float, so I can now move the pole tip across to the right hand side. Again you can see the wind is coming from that direction, and within a few seconds, because we've introduced the rig correctly, we've got another fish. And both of those fish on that day were about 4.5 pounds.